All right, guys, I have a special treat for you today. I have Eric Upchurch on the podcast, and Eric's got quite the bio, guys. But just to give you a couple of bullets before we jump in, Eric is a husband, dad of two boys, currently living in California, right, Eric?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. An Army Special Ops veteran. So thank you so much for your service.
My pleasure.
And what I love about this interview and what we're about to dive into is you're also creating an incredible movement with veterans that have served and given up so much and focused on, PTSD, your motto of save one life that I know that we're going to get into. Co-author of an Amazon #1 bestseller. That's freaking awesome. And you're a GP in 2,000 units with another 3 in the pipe, right?
Yep, rough numbers, but absolutely.
All right, man. So look, I know you're playing this game of life and business and contribution at a high level. And I'd love to just jump right into your background and tell me a little bit more about your journey and talk to me about your service and kind of wherever you want to go from there, man.
Yeah, so I originally hail from the Midwest, from Iowa, moved as soon as I got out of high school. My buddy and I moved to California, went to college at UC Santa Barbara. After I graduated, I enlisted in the Army. Most people, after they graduate with a degree, would go on the officer side. But since I was 12 years old, I'd been, like even working in the cornfields in Iowa. I was always a team leader. I always ended up at a retail job. I'd end up as a supervisor or manager or whatever. So I think just 24, 25 years old, knowing that it's best if I go influence younger people and help people up. It's always been kind of something I inherently did, even before I really recognized that as a strength of mine. So I chose to be enlisted instead of being an officer.
Okay.
And what that allowed me to do was two things. One, it paid off all of my college debt. And so instead of using the GI Bill, after I got out of the military and going to get college, go get a degree, which is what a lot of people talk about, they actually had the Army loan repayment program, which I enrolled in. And so as soon as I enlisted, they wiped all my debt, which was like for 2 years at UC Santa Barbara, because I transferred, it was like 50 grand.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, they wiped it out, all debt gone. And I spent 6 years in special operations. And the only reason I ended up in special operations was because I was trying to make it home to my wedding on time. Just real briefly what that means. Yeah. So my wife and I were dating in college, and we discussed it when I enlisted. She's like, yeah, okay, go for it. And so I knew that my basic training and advanced individual training to learn my job was about 6 months. I enlisted in January. Our wedding was in July, like late January. Our wedding was in late July. And so if I had missed a single PT test, pissed off the wrong drill sergeant, sprained an ankle or gotten injured in any way, or failed a test, I would have gotten recycled, which means put into the class behind you so that you can heal or get whatever. I would have missed my wedding. And there's no plan B in that scenario. The Army doesn't care if you have a wedding on July 31st, So I was trying really, really hard to be squared away. And the hard part there was when I enlisted, I was at E4. I skipped all the private ranks because I had a college degree. And so my goal was just to be the gray man. Like, if I'm going to survive this thing, I got to be under the radar. Like, I got to just blend in somehow into the background. But I'm the only guy in the battalion that has my rank. So I immediately stood out and got singled out. But, what that did was made me push. And ultimately, looking back, that helped me end up at the top of my class. And that's how I ended up. And all I was, again, trying to do was to make it home to my wedding. Because I was top of my class, I got selected for special operations, had no idea what that was. Ended up being another year's worth of training, essentially, until I was qualified to be in the unit and stuff. But so that was it. And then I had a fantastic career in the military. 6 years at Hunter Army Airfield and 3rd Battalion, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and did 5 tours overseas and went to, airborne, air assault, Pathfinder, Navy SEER School.
Wow.
Lots of cool schools and cool deployments. And, those are the fun parts. And then there's the bad parts too, which is that will lead right into kind of my mission and where my head's at now. And I I was the burial detail non-commissioned officer in charge. So whenever we
Oh,
would
wow.
lose
God bless, brother.
one of my brothers, we would have to go to their hometown and put them in the ground. So,
Wow.
yeah, so pros and cons, but ultimately looking back, man, I got a lot out of the military. I learned so much. I got my master's degree that the military paid for while I was serving. And, you know, I had a lot of great experiences, and look back fondly at it.
Well, I'm sure it sounds like you had a supportive spouse since the beginning, which
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people that are on the journey that you went through, on the journey that I've been through. And without that supportive unit, man, it's
Yeah.
a lot of this would not have been possible.
Yeah. I have to say that's the one thing that allows me to travel even still is,
Yeah.
you know, I've been married 18 years and, we have 2 boys and stuff. And the reason that I've had any level of success is because my wife is supportive and understands what the things I'm doing means. And she's been there since, you know, the beginning, since
Yeah.
college. So, when I didn't have a dime to my name, you know,
Yeah.
all I had
Yeah.
was credit card debt probably at that
Yeah.
point.
I hear that, man. Been
Yeah.
there.
But, you know, and I'll say this too, for those military members that are listening to this, they can relate. As a staff sergeant in the Army, I had 27 guys under my chain of command. And
Wow.
of the 27, 22 were divorced under the age of 25 years old.
Oh my Lord. Wow.
Yeah. So it's a very high stress. It's difficult to always be gone, have a relationship, you know,
Hmm.
and then always be gone, whether you're training or deployed. And we would deploy all the time. You go for a month, you go for 2 months, 3 months, you go to a training here, training there. And to come home every time and reinsert yourself into the home is not an easy thing. And it doesn't work for all relationships. And so you see a lot of military members getting divorced. It's really stressful to like
Yeah.
have your spouse taking care of everything. And then the other spouse who's deployed or home or training or whatever comes home and like, here I am, I'm
Yeah.
ready to do the dishes, I'm ready to take the
Yeah.
kids soccer.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I've been doing this for months. Like, I don't know where you belong anymore. You know?
Wow.
So there's that thing people don't think of. They just think of dysfunctional relationships, but it's actually just very stressful, and it takes a very strong spouse to get through that. So
Now, did you have any of the kids while you were still enlisted, or did that come after?
yeah, I had my first son. He was born in Savannah. And that's actually part of why I decided to ETS, to get out of the military.
Okay.
I'd been burying so many of my friends, and I
Wow.
knew, you know, deploying all the time and stuff. For me, that wasn't a tempo that I could keep up with long term. I also knew, you know, I had ambitions with my degree and with my experience in the unit and stuff to go out in the civilian world. And I saw the dollars and cents of it. And I was like, man, I can make I was making $46,000 as a staff sergeant in my unit. And I'm like, I can easily make more than this on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And my life's at risk. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Your
to me, it
life
was just,
and your mental health as well.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it was absolutely, yeah. One of the hardest things I've ever done, if not the hardest, was putting a friend I've known for 6 years, carrying him to his final resting place with 6 of my brothers, and folding the flag over his coffin while listening to his mother cry,
Oh,
and not being allowed to cry. Maintaining military bearing is what we call it. And that is
wow.
like, that is not a human thing. So, and then you go the next day, you're like, back to the mission. We're deploying tomorrow, or we're going back to this thing tomorrow. We got to go back to work. So there was no time for grieving or, you know, even recognition that they're gone.
Dealing with the trauma and the
No, not
stress.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't deal with any of that survivor's guilt or anything until I got out of the military, actually.
Wow. Wow. Whew. All right. So
Deep.
before we jump any further than that, right? Because
Yep.
that's obviously that's pretty heavy stuff, right?
Yep.
What was that like, if you don't mind me asking, right? Like, once you started to go through the process, did you realize, because I'm only want to spend a little bit of time on this because I know that we have people that are either going through something, have went through something, or just have never dealt with anything because they've just kind of shoved it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to the realization that if you don't do something to work on all this, that you're going to have a problem long term?
I thought about someone other than myself.
Okay.
So I was in San Francisco. I was presenting a seminar, an education seminar, and I was driving down a 3rd Street off ramp, and I saw a homeless veteran, And I was like, man, I bet 20 years ago, I mean, his sign said he was a homeless veteran. I have
Hmm.
no idea if he was or not,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I bet 20 years ago, that guy didn't know that he was going to be sitting here in San Francisco, homeless, on the streets and whatever else going on. And I was like, man, I feel fine, but like, I should probably go get checked out. I should probably go to the VA and just talk to somebody, because
Hmm.
going to see a behavioral health specialist in the Army, in my unit specifically, in the Special Operations Command, it wasn't a thing you did, because you could lose your security clearance if you had mental problems.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I have
Yeah.
air quotes right here.
Hmm.
So thankfully that's changed. Now you're allowed to go get the help you need and not,
Hmm.
have your job be at risk. But
Hmm.
um, so I went to the VA, and the very first session I sat in with a psychiatrist, I was in tears. And I am
Yeah.
not an overly emotional crier or anything like that, but she made me speak about some of the stuff that I had experienced and some of the
Hmm.
loss, and write it down and read it to her. And man, I was like astonished at how
Yeah.
much stuff was bottled up, and I had no idea. So it was really that moment. I was just like, and so what I'm saying, I hope somebody listening to this podcast will go like, well, I've had trauma. It's not the same as Eric's trauma, but like, whether it's TBI or PTSD, or sexual trauma, or just a car accident, whatever your trauma is, you got to realize that that does something chemically to your body. And you really, I mean, mentally, yes, you've got to hash that out, but like, it actually does something to your physical body that you've got to go
100%.
and work through it, and until you can kind of choose some tools to work through all of the scenarios out there in life. And so I found some things to be very helpful. And to me, it's like giving back to the veteran community, and real estate investing. To me, that's kind of my outlet, and having a community of people that I can help and serve, that so I can continue my service in a community of kind of like-minded people in my niche. So
Yeah. Amen to that, brother. And I know that you're helping people on this podcast right now, and even people, just getting through the whole COVID situation, and people that haven't dealt with stuff. I know you're helping people. So we're also going to drop a couple of links in the show notes, guys, with some added resources. One of my dear friends that I know he's going to listen to this, Omar Pinto, he specializes in trauma and healing and all that good stuff. So I thank you for everything you did, man. So let's talk to the person right now, right? That finds himself in a similar situation, and you made the decision that it's time to get out of the military, or it's time to leave that corporate job and
mhm.
go into the next step in your life, build a big life, build a legacy, right? How did you take those steps, and how did you fall into real estate and everything that you're doing right now?
Yeah, a lot of military members become accidental landlords. You buy a house in Savannah, Georgia, 100% leveraged with a VA loan, which is fantastic, by the way, 0% down. And I was living in it, and when I got out of the military, I was like, well, okay, I have to move back to the San Francisco Bay Area where my wife's from, and I can't sell this house. This was 2000. I bought it in 2006. A great time to have a 100% leveraged home. Sarcasm there.
Yeah, exactly.
But for those of you who weren't around in 2006 to know, it's like, so when I moved in late 2010, I was like, the only thing we can do is rent this place out. And so we rented it, and I was like, I'm making $80 a month in cash flow. I didn't even know the term cash flow really at that
Yeah.
point. It was like, at least I'm positive $80. But then what I realized is, like, every time the thermostat goes out, because the summers are super humid in Georgia and stuff, every time there's a problem with the house, I'm like, that eats up like 6 months worth of cash flow. I'm like,
Yeah.
so there's got to be a better way. Like, are people intentionally doing this and doing better than that? And so my wheel started spinning a little bit. I stumbled across Rich Dad Poor Dad, like everybody
Yeah.
else, and went to a seminar, like a boot camp in San Jose, California. And like, my eyes were just like, oh my gosh, there's like a whole community of people that are doing this. And I just never really thought that I could do it. No one teaches you this in high school or something, or
Eric,
college,
what year is this, by the way? When
This
was
is
this?
2000 like 12, when
Oh,
I
wow.
when
Okay.
I my eyes were really open. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get my head around this.
Yeah.
And so I ended up we ended up live-in flipping in the Bay Area, and that was kind of my capital building phase, I call it, because we would buy a house, and actually the cheapest house we could find in the Bay Area at the time was 500 grand. It was an attached duet, and we bought it with zero. I didn't have 100 grand to put down on a $500,000 house, so we had the VA loan. That house we sold it 2 years later, so no capital gains tax. We sold it 2 years later for $690, and I was like, coming from a Midwest guy who spent time in the military in Georgia and stuff, we just made 190 grand. I mean, give or take. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And how can I make that happen again?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You got the bug.
I did. And so we ended up doing that. We bought a house near the beach, in Capitola, California, kind of near Santa Cruz, and renovated that one and forced appreciation and sold that, but we lived in it. And then we did it again in the East Bay. So we did that 3 times, and each time made money. And we're like, okay, now we're at like 2016 and going, now what do we do with this money? And so that's when I started really going, okay, can we flip houses like out of state? I didn't want to do anything in California because people were still paying like 500 grand over the asking price for a house that has like fire damage, you know? So, ended up reaching out to a buddy who I saw posting on Facebook, like on private jets and stuff. And I went to college with him, and he was like, he was the same degree as me and stuff. So I reached out to him. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm buying apartments. And I was like, what do you mean you're buying apartments? And so he started out buying 4plexes in Bakersfield, like the middle of nowhere in California. Yeah. And I was like, well, let me come down and meet you in your office, and you can tell me what it is. So anyway, ended up investing in my first limited partnership, my passive investment in an apartment complex. Actually, it was a 439 unit mobile home park portfolio.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I went to a boot camp, a training event, weekend training event that Rod Cleef held. And then I was like, I can do this.
Oh, I was at that one in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it was I went to the one in April of 2018.
Okay.
And in Los Angeles. He did have one. His first one was in, I think, Tampa, 2017.
Yeah, in Florida. Yep, in Tampa.
Yep. And so I went to that, and I was like, dude, these people up on stage are like regular folks. I can do that. And so I said to myself, I'm going to be on that stage in 1 year. Full circle, 1 year later, Rod calls me up and says, can you come speak on my stage? Because I had gone into the program. I had successfully closed a deal, an 80 unit asset in Indiana, and I was making lots of progress, and I knew a lot of people, and I was consistently showing up and all the right things. And when he called me up, and I was like, I just called it out and made it happen. And that's kind of a message. I want to say that's a message.
Yeah.
And I think we'll talk about it later, but like, if you want something in life, just go put it out there. Go do it. I have vision boards right in front of me all day long.
Mine's right in front of me.
Yep. And whatever it is you want, you go put it out there, and your brain just figures out a way to attract the right people, the right conversations, the right things. It sounds like bullshit. It's not.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the self-belief muscle, right? So obviously you played hopscotch, and it's so funny because we have a lot of similarities. My wife and I are married 11 years, and I believe the correct count is we've moved 7 times.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was the live in flip, make a profit, live in flip, and then keep going.
Yeah.
So what about the people, right, that they know that they need to do this, or they know that the single family game or the small multi game, you're not going to make the crazy amount of cash flow, but it depends on what game that you're playing, right? How do you take that jump and just go into the 80 unit apartment building?
You don't take the jump except for in deciding. So you can make tons of money in single family. You can make tons of money in multifamily. You can make tons of money as a wholesaler. But what you have to do, I've dabbled at horizontal growth in a lot of different things. I've flipped houses in Kansas City with a buddy. I've done BRRRRs. I've done buy and holds. I've done, all kinds of different asset classes, even tax lien investing and all kinds of stuff, because I wanted to like be able to speak intelligently about some of this stuff, but also figure out what I was good at.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about what I'm good at. So I by doing all these things. So if you want to be a single family investor, go be the best single family investor, and go go deleverage those things, pay them off, and just cash flow like crazy. Or even in the single family where there's a whole school of thought, never pay them off because you can keep refining and reinvesting that cash flow into more assets. I personally would go for that. But what I found with multifamily and discovered through going to some of these trainings is I would rather have 80 doors in one place that have 80 of the same doorknobs, 80 of the same shingles, 80 of the same bathtubs, and I have a full-time staff, property manager, maintenance tech, and landscaper living at the asset or nearby. At least they're there every day. And so for me, it was, let me take a little less control and equity out of what I would own versus single family for the ease of use, for the ability to scale. So now in the last 4 years, going from 0 to, we'll have 5,000 units in the next, and that's all commercial units. That's storage, multifamily. We're getting into a hotel conversion now.
Wow.
So, but you starts with one, right? And we started with one 80 unit asset. I'll tell you this though, if you learn the process of how to buy commercial multifamily and you surround yourself in an ecosystem, you will succeed if you never fail. If you never quit. Only time you fail is if you quit. So I was not a quitter. In fact, my unit motto is Night Stalkers don't quit. So in order to get through our training, in order to get through our missions, there is no quit. It is delivering the cargo, the precious cargo, time on target, plus or minus 30 seconds. There is no alternative. We are it. So with that attitude, if you're out there going like, what do I do? You commit to one of those avenues until you succeed. When you succeed, then you go, did I like that? Or what did I like? What did I not like? Can I continue this and maintain your W-2 job or maintain your lifestyle or whatever you want? Or do you need to shift to another asset class and try that one at a time until you find your niche? That's my recommendation. That's what I did. And I thought it was a great way to do it because you learn a lot about other things, but then you also, have the people out there who are like, go from 0 to I'm buying multifamily only. And knowing what I know now, I think that's fantastic. But, so it just depends on what you want.
Yeah, and I subscribe to a lot of those beliefs too. And what I do is I look back at my core values and I make sure that everything that I'm doing or the goals that I'm going after are in line with my core values. And my main things are peace and time freedom, and then eventually location freedom. So you already have that location freedom out there in Cali, man.
It is pretty nice, I have to tell you. You keep politics and taxes out of your mind. And the rest of it, this is beautiful. It is. I live an hour from where it's 10 feet of snow right now, but it never snows where I live.
Yeah.
So I can take my kids up skiing or sledding or whatever, but it's nice and warm here.
Yeah.
And I'm 2 hours from the beach. Mount Whitney is the highest point in the U.S. And I've got Death Valley is the lowest point in the U.S. And I've got it's so topographically diverse here, geographically diverse here. I love it. I have to say. And on the tax side, I have to just mention this. Just make more money, pay your taxes, and figure out, hire a great CPA that knows exactly how to lessen your tax burden. That's
buy commercial real estate so you can take advantage of bonus depreciation.
Exactly. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Let's talk about the book, right? And then we're going to jump into your mission. And then I want to wrap up with, this massive growth and the units and everything, right? But talk to me about the book process, right? And for everybody listening, what's the name of the book and where can they find it?
Yeah, the book is called Military House Hacking. You can go to militaryhousehacking.com. You can go to activedutypassiveincome.com, which is our website, and then there'll be a pop-up. You can actually get it for a free download, the PDF. We don't want to restrict it to anybody. We want the information to be out there. So enter your email address, just like always, and you can get the full book free download on our website. You can buy the hard or soft copy on Amazon also if you prefer that method. But so it talks about it starts with an intro on assets versus liabilities, good debt versus bad debt, and then builds into what the military house hack is, which We know in the military, if your military listeners are out there, you've got the VA loan. As soon as you qualify, you've got the VA loan for life. And what that allows you to do, it's an owner occupied loan product, but it allows you to buy up to a fourplex with 0 down. So when I got started, had I known that, had someone, and it's not the military's job to teach me about financial independence or financial, like there's like the bare bones basics, education PowerPoint on the heels of like a 4-day weekend and no one's paying attention, so like, that's fine. But had someone told me that I could buy a fourplex, I would have bought a fourplex. And yes, you have to qualify for it. You have to, your debt to income has to be right. But military members now are doing this everywhere. You can buy a fourplex, triplex, duplex, or a single family. If you're single or have a very understanding spouse, you could rent out your other bedrooms
Yeah,
to
house hack
fellow
it.
service
Yeah.
members. And that is the ultimate house hack. The military house hack is just doing that with 0 down. So any returns you're making are infinite returns. And then when you PCS, when you move to a different duty station, there are some strategies you can do. There's a one-time refi. You can refinance that property and go use your VA loan again, or sell it and start over. So you can, one thing I like is that you can live in one unit and renovate it while you live in it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you have a tenant, as soon as it's renovated, you can move into the other unit and renovate that one once a tenant moves, and then rent out the one for a higher price. So you're increasing, just like commercial, you're increasing the net operating income of the fourplex or duplex or triplex. And as you move around and do that, and then you sell, you're going to get a way higher. I mean, you just renovated it while you were living in it. You're not going to over renovate it. You just renovate it per the neighborhood, like any other flip or whatever you would do. But as you're able to rent that unit out for a higher price, your cash flow goes up. And then when you sell, you're going to get a lot of money, compared to what you paid for it. And it's just a fantastic, you might even be able to sell it to an investor. So who's looking at your cash flow.
And for everybody listening, right, if you haven't figured this out, we're all just playing a game here, right? And the first property that I bought was a 3-family FHA 11 or 12 years ago, that during COVID, we did a cash out refi and we bought 2 more properties with the same property's equity.
Absolutely.
So it's all just a game, guys. Like Eric said, you just have to buy the first property and take action and get started.
Here's another cheat code. I bought 2 turnkey properties in Kansas City in 2017. I bought them at 4 3/4 interest rate. It cash flowed. Each one cash flowed like $200 to $300 a month. So not huge numbers, but in 2020, I refinanced them to 2 3/4. So reduce the interest rate. I did a cash out refi. I pulled $57,000 out of those assets, and my cash flow went up because my payment went down.
Figure that one out.
A cash out refi is not a taxable event. So it was net $57,000 in my pocket. And then a year later, I sold them for $100K profit.
Woo!
And my cash flow was higher. So this is the game you're talking about. It's like, and the tenants were happy. They got a nice renovated place. I didn't have to increase the rent. The cash flow went up because my payment went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it was a win-win-win all across the board.
The triple win. We love those.
Yeah. Add probably another win in there. I don't know.
It's incredible, man.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to transition, and then to be cognizant of your time and respectful, we're going to wrap up shortly. But talk to me about your movement, man, and how we can help to support your movement.
Yeah. So our company, Active Duty Passive Income, is the premier military real estate investing education platform and community in the world. Really, we have 24 international meetups called ADPI Local. So military members anywhere in the world can start a meetup under our brand, and it's structured and everyone knows it, right?
Oh, that's incredible.
But then we have 65,000 members currently, all military, all vetted. We have education courses, the Military Real Estate Investing Education Academy. We have the Military Multifamily Academy, and now we have the Military Short-Term Rental Academy. And those all come with cohorts, so classes. And so that's on the accountability side. And so if you're military, what's really cool about this is like it gives you a tribe. And this is the transition to like the mission, the passion and purpose is like when you transition from the military, you need to find your people again.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know, like, okay, this person has gone through basic training. This person has deployed. This person I can respect because they put the uniform on. We speak the same language at very least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you add, well, now we speak two same language. We speak the real estate language and we speak the military language. So we've created this from a completely blue ocean. We created this powerhouse community of military members that now can get together, form teams, buy assets. In the last 2 years, our students have purchased over 1 billion in assets.
Oh, wow. You have
And
how many? You have 65,000 members?
well, those are our members.
Yeah.
These I'm talking about our paid students, the
Yeah.
people who buy our courses and go through our cohort classes. So that's
Wow.
only hundreds. So yeah, and that's only the people that we could get to respond to the survey. So it's probably much more than that. But you know how that goes. So
Yeah, man.
so but then personally, I'm like, okay, well, I'm a military guy in the real estate space. How can I give back? How can I like, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, there's got to be something bigger than this, for-profit business that's helping military members achieve financial freedom. What else can we do? And so 2019, I was speaking at an event in Kansas City. And I said on stage, I was like, and this is part of that vision. I said, I'm going to figure out a way in 2020 to donate a house to a homeless veteran. I had no idea how. Didn't matter. I put it out there and I made it happen. Actually, we donated 2 homes in 2020. And now I'm very involved with Veterans Community Project. It's a 501c3 platinum rated out of Kansas City. And now, so they build tiny homes for homeless veterans, but slab construction to city code, all unique looks, 280 to 320 square foot dwellings with interweaving sidewalks and fire pits. They have an outreach center on location for case management to make sure they can meet the veteran where they are, no matter what scenario they're in. And we've reduced the veteran homelessness population from 38,000 nationwide to 32,000 in the last 2 years.
That is phenomenal, man.
So this is a solvable problem. Veterans Community Project is in 6 cities currently and expanding as rapidly as we can. And we're absolutely going to solve the veteran homelessness problem this decade.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to help to get the word out throughout the community and my network, man. And let's get that number below 30. So that's absolutely phenomenal. Wow. Yeah, I saw that in your email signature. I was like, we have to go here, man. We have to talk about this. It's incredible, man.
Yeah, we actually we did a charity hike. I put together 12 real estate investors, friends of mine. We hiked around Lake Tahoe, 170 miles. The goal was $1,000 per mile hiked. Every dime went to Veterans Community Project. So our target was 170,000. We raised $190,000 as we hiked around Lake Tahoe last summer.
Phenomenal, brother. Phenomenal.
That's awesome.
All right, let's shift gears here for the final time. Let's talk multifamily, right?
Yeah.
All I want to talk is your aggressive war path that you're on here, right? For lack of a better term. So we're in some kind of really heavy shift, or we're in the beginnings of something, right? And but you have 3,000 doors under contract. So what's your view given the current economic conditions, and what's your take on the market? What's your strategy right now?
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing, number one, but this isn't me. I have so many amazing people around me and teams, and I have a huge ecosystem of fellow multifamily and storage investors around me. So one difference between single family and commercial real estate is teams. And I work obviously very well in teams and around teams and contributing to teams. Multifamily or just commercial real estate in general is a team sport versus single family is kind of like a little like me, cutthroat. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, it's all your responsibility.
And it's also lonely. It can get lonely.
Exactly. Whereas commercial is like, you've got 5 or 6 teammates on your general partnership every single time. And it's different for every single asset. And you've got people you're competing with, you have conversations with, and you meet at meetups and conferences, and you're like, hey man, how's it going? Yeah, it was funny. We were both bidding on that same deal in Nashville, whatever. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's a very like communal, Like, let's work together and get this thing done, because we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to value add. We're trying to improve the lives of the communities. And, so we all work together to do it. And to me, so, having several years of, again, showing up and making sure that I'm clear about what value I can add and connecting people together, which I love to do. It's just transpired into people coming to me and saying, would you like to be part of this deal we've got? And, and then I'll look at the underwriting and see where I can fit in. And some deals I have to say no to because I don't have the time. And some deals I'm like, yes, I can absolutely add value to your property.
And what's the blend right now of what you're under contract on? Is it mainly large multi or is it storage too?
Yeah, I've got 25. The bulk of it is there's a 2,500 unit storage portfolio in Texas. And then we have 355 unit in Alabama, 64 unit in multifamily in South Carolina, another 48 unit in South Carolina, and then 120 unit in Nashville.
Wow. What's the goal, man? Where are you trying to go?
I'm trying to be a passive investor.
Okay.
That's the funny thing is, like, I started as a passive investor, and I'm glad where I am right now because I enjoy all of this. But eventually, I have it on my vision board: give $1 million annually. Again, doesn't matter how I'm going to do that. It is something that's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. But but also just, if you have $5 million invested at an 8 pref or even a 7 pref, 7% preferred return, that's a $350,000 a year check for doing nothing.
Yep.
And it doubles essentially at a 15% IRR. That's doubling that investment. So 5 million becomes 10 million in 5 years. And so it's just like, to me, I'm like, so if you've got $5 million and you're sitting out there right now, start investing as an LP with teams that like, and trust, because that is great money that you can make sitting on your hands.
It's incredible. All right. Final thing, it's a selfish question. I like to ask people this. Talk to me about your morning routine, brother.
Yeah, I've got it on my vision board, wouldn't you know?
Yeah.
So I have my ideal day, which I'll say, but I also, like, to me, first thing in the morning, gym. Like, I'm in the gym. I don't care if I'm like 3 days a week, I'm lifting heavy, but 5 to 7 days a week, I'm walking 15,000 steps, and I can get a lot done on the treadmill, just walking. Running, not so much, but I don't run anymore. So it's read, go to the gym, income producing activities, income producing priorities, I'll actually say. Not just any activity, but things that I've specifically allocated as rocks I need to accomplish. Go for a walk if I haven't already met my goal. Food and water, then emails in the afternoon. So I have the whole day kind of time block, but ultimately, to me, I'm centered for the day around not spending time in the morning on things that are other people's things, not spending too much time in my inbox, because my inbox is a reflection of what other people need, not what I need.
I love that.
So I usually don't set, unless I'm talking to guys like you, I do not set meetings in the morning until at least 10 Pacific usually. So the gym is the big answer. You've got to get to the gym. If you don't protect the temple, the rest of it's going to crumble. And I also think of, if my investors are looking at me and I look healthy and I act healthy and have lots of energy, what's that going to say about my assets and my ability to perform? And so I think about those things, and whether or not it matters to them doesn't matter. That's the way it makes me feel about it. I'm like, okay, Eric, get up, because your investors really are going to need you to perform today. You know? So, and also I do hard things. I just did a half Ironman in December with 0 training.
Congrats.
Signed up, did the 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and half marathon. And I don't bike, run, or swim. But what I do is think about the brothers out there that I buried. That would be the pain I endured during doing hard things like that would be an amazing thing for them to experience, and they can't. So I'll go do that. And I'm going to push myself mentally and physically to make sure that I'm living the right life that is worth my survival and their death. So it's a little bit dark, but it's a motivator to me. It's like, I got to get out there and matter. I got to get out there and do something that is worthwhile and productive and helping others, or else why am I here?
Wow. Well, we will wrap on that, and we need to get this to thousands of people, and that's my job to do that. So we're going to wrap on that. Final thing is, how can my listeners add value to you? How can they support the movement? Do they go to the website, or where can they find you other than the website?
Yeah, you can find me on social media, Real Eric Upchurch. Also, feel free to reach out. ActiveDutyPassiveIncome.com is our website. You can email me, Eric, at ActiveDutyPassiveIncome.com. If you are stuck and you're military and you're like, what do I do next? I would love to put you on course. That's what we do.
Wow. Thank you so much, brother. This has been more than I hoped for. And thank you so much for everything you do. And just keep on rocking, brother. We're here to support you.
I promise I will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, bro.